Coexistence. Why do natural disasters occur? We ask this question not because we want to find someone to blame in particular. We ask it because we have concerns about the common future of all beings on this planet, and we're willing to reflect on the role of human activity in shaping this future. For centuries, our planet has been plagued by natural and human-made problems. Every single day, there's news about natural disasters, wars, conflicts, robberies, rapes, fraud, and so on. Every single day, there are people dying and suffering. However, we usually do not realize the full gravity of such disasters until one hits close to home. This is precisely where the root of the problem lies. We tend only to care about ourselves and the very few people and things around us. Anything outside our own small box is just a piece of distant news. Yes, there are disasters and people suffering and dying out there, but we're not supposed to be responsible for them. Besides, what can we do about it? Sense of disconnectedness from the world, or the belief that we are separate from some external reality, is a delusion that erodes our responsibility to others. Modern life increasingly relies on machinery and the service industry. As a result, a phone call to a service company can quickly fix a problem that would have required the effort of a whole family in a previous age. Consequently, our living is made more convenient and independent, but our connections and communications with others become much more limited. And some people even believe that happiness is a private matter, with concern about only what they themselves want and can get, with little regard for the well-being of others. On the other hand, interdependence among people has increased in modern society and is greater than in self-sufficient agricultural communities. All our living necessities, including food, clothing, shelter, and transportation, rely on other people's work. Urbanization also leads to increasing population density. Whether we are at work or at home, we often have to share with others an ever smaller space. Consequently, our actions and speech have greater impact on ourselves and those around us. Living in harmony is not just an aspiration. It is also a necessity for our mutual survival and further advancement. Such is the paradox of modern society. On the one hand, people are increasingly dependent on one another. Actions taken by a small group of people on one part of the earth will have a greater impact on those living on another part. Yet people perceive themselves as being independent enough to avoid relying on others and to neglect others' well-being. We all desire happiness, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in pursuing it, we need to have consideration for others, including those who live today, those of future generations, and animals too. People in affluent societies in particular should be more thoughtful about the welfare of others, as the richer and more capable have more resources to help. Although all of us will eventually suffer in one way or another if our living environment deteriorates, the poor and weak are usually affected more deeply than others. It also takes them much longer to get out of trouble and to recover. Good examples are environmental issues caused by human activity, such as the excessive exploitation of natural resources, urban development, water and air pollution, wildlife poaching, and so on. Global warming, climate change, and natural disasters have become regular newspaper headlines and are affecting everybody living on the planet. But for those with limited financial resources in the poorer nations, the chance for survival is much bleaker in the face of disaster, and their difficulties are often exacerbated by especially fragile ecosystems and poor infrastructure. We used to think of natural disasters and human-made calamities as two separate issues. Gradually, however, we have come to realize that the line between the two is not so clear. Every phenomenon is the product of the interplay of varied causes and effects. One does not have to be an advanced practitioner of Buddhism to understand that our mental activities influence the outer world. That is, our thoughts guide our actions, and our actions in turn affect the external environment within which we live. Natural disasters do not happen overnight, nor are they driven by a single cause. When they happen, the final trigger often appears to be natural forces. But just as the straw that breaks the camel's back does not represent the whole burden, behind these disasters we find the imprints of human activity. Sociologists have done extensive research on the relationship between human activity and social and environmental development. They certainly have far better knowledge than I do in this field. What I share here is only my personal observations from a layperson's perspective. What also strikes me is that improving living conditions fails to ease people's physical and mental suffering. It's true that many infectious diseases caused by, for example, poor hygiene have been eradicated or are being controlled. But a succession of new health problems have emerged, such as high blood sugar, gout, and obesity. In developed nations, stress results in an increasing number of people suffering from insomnia and depression, and induces other problems like cardiovascular diseases and cancer. I'm not saying that material advances per se are increasing human suffering. It would be naive to think that the abandonment of material development would solve every modern problem, for this does not address the root cause we are confronting. Even if we returned to more primitive technologies, we would not necessarily become happier. Yet many of us go to the other extreme, believing that technological advances and material affluence could tackle all problems and eliminate suffering in our times. This is why people compete aggressively for resources. Undoubtedly, material things can bring satisfaction, but only to the physical aspect of our lives. However, it is our need for not only physical pleasures, but also spiritual fulfillment that makes us humans unique and distinct from animals. In addition to material things, people also try to acquire more intellectual resources. Higher education and intellectual credentials are often associated with personal success. Knowing little does not necessarily lead to happiness. But knowledge in itself is not a promise for happiness either. In fact, many people keep themselves updated every day through constant phone calls, a continuous flow of emails, and a vast amount of information. Still, they remain anxious and worried that society might marginalize them if they miss something. Some problems in today's world can indeed be solved, like the eradication of poverty and illiteracy. Yet in many circumstances we still suffer. The deeper cause of human suffering, in my view, lies in our long-time negligence of spiritual development. True and lasting happiness cannot be achieved through external things. If we continue to ignore spiritual development, our problems will remain as they are.